If you were a Scottish coach, what would you do? South Africa?
Terrible, but me, I will pick the second team against South Africa.
No, you wouldn't.
Why?
The only thing that we always remember in World Cups, it's not mostly our wins, but it's our losses, obviously, especially with the All Blacks against the Frenchies.
If I had to put my money on it, anyone who thinks Fiji's not going to get out of that group, think again.
I am very, very sad for Zach Mercer. I don't understand then why he's not picked in the 33 of England.
Hello and welcome to Marseille for the official Rugby World Cup podcast. I'm Gethin Jones, your host. The podcast is brought to you by Asahi Super Dry, the official beer of the World Cup. And I'm delighted to say we have got a stellar panel for you this afternoon. This back three would get into any all-time fantasy league. Ex-French captain and head coach Philippe Saint-André, the try-scoring machine that is Joe Rokocoko, and a man that's ever present on the Rugby World Cup podcast, Ugo Monye. Lovely to see you, gents. Bonjour.
Bonjour. I was waiting to get buried there because when you talk about all-time great back threes, I'd be nowhere near it. I'd be absolutely nowhere near it. If you were
No, but in a fantasy league, you need to save some money. So you'd have Philippe and then Joe, and you'd
spend
be like
your cash there.
2.5. I spent all my cash over there.
That's my role. I think their highlights are a lot better than mine.
Hugo, for those who are listening to this podcast, do you want to do a quick where we are, make everyone feel very jealous as we sit in Philippe Saint-André's third home in France?
Yeah, I know. Thank you so much for inviting us here today. Yeah, the coffee's great as well.
Welcome to France.
Thank you so much. So we're based in Marseille, and we're going to be doing a lot of podcasts out of it. It is, I won't give away the time of recording, but it's the morning, and it's already 25 degrees. The backdrop is absolutely stunning. You can barely hear a thing. It's about as serene as it comes. However, this will all change in the next few days because the World Cup is descending upon France, and the opening weekend, we're going to see a couple of fantastic matches. Very excited. Philippe, you played in an era, in a generation, which is often synonymous with French flair and the French style, and it's something that had gone missing for a little while. But when you mentioned this French team, how do you think you'd have fared? Would you have enjoyed playing within this French team? And
we are the three former wingers, but when you have Antoine Dupont scrum half, you just be behind him and score some try in the blind side. When you have I am a coach, and when you have the best player in the world, it's better to coach him than to have him against you, So I think these guys, it's amazing because you can see against Fiji, we were quite struggling. And he creates 3 tries from nothing. So, I think it's something so special. You can see also when he plays for Toulouse. Toulouse have 80% winning game when he's playing, and just 50% when he's out.
Is that right? Wow,
so
what's that?
You can,
30%.
Yeah.
So you can say what the difference he make with the French team, but also with the Stade Toulousain.
Is he the greatest player of our generation?
I think he is. I think he's just in that position, and to be able to do certain things that position is not normally to do, in creating opportunities. Your classic nine is deliver the ball fast. You might have a little dance around the ruck, and that's about it. But he does the small kicks. No, there's a problem, I'll solve it. But he just absorbs a lot of, the morale. He comes into the stadium, or he comes into the changing room, and he just gets this attention from his peers. And that's what you want, and that just shows how much important this place is.
What's he made of? He's made of steel. He doesn't get hurt, does he? He's so consistent and
but he's
robust.
He's very strong. He's very, very quick. But also we forgot that sometimes he finished fly half. With the Stade Toulousain, he starts scrum half.
Well, that's a really good point because Hugo, you just mentioned that France have got a great team. You said the same, Philippe. They're missing 3 or 4 players going into the World Cup. They're going to need Dupont more than ever. How much is that going to affect them? We've got Dante Valemce's out, isn't he? And Tamac, of course.
Yes, but I think it's the depth will make the difference in this World Cup. And to be honest, Fabien Galtier was quite clever. In 4 years, he used. I will say 45 players. They did a preparation with 42 players. So yes, and Tamac is a big loss, but we have 2 other good fly half. And I think the difference, because because the World Cup will be very long. It will be very hard game. I think it will be two games in pool, quite hard, plus quarter, semi and final. And I think the team will be champion, will be the team with a better depth in the squad.
Philippe, are you a football fan?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Man United used to be at Sale, surely.
Yeah,
Man United.
exactly.
Of
Yeah, there you
course,
go.
him and Sir Alex like this. Absolute best friends. The reason I ask is France 98, when you hosted the World Cup, I'm a massive football fan. And seeing Zidane's face
Yeah.
up on the Arc de Triomphe
Yes.
and 1.5 million people down the Champs-Elysees is something, is a memory which is just etched into my
You
mind.
love that. You always bring out that. up on the
Honestly,
podcast.
it's incredible. Have a look at the image. Anyone listening to this or watching this video, have a look at that image. It's amazing. Do you think we'll see scenes like that again if France win the World Cup? What Dupont's face?
Yeah, I think so, because to be honest, Antoine Dupont start to do a publicity exactly the same than Zidane, and he start with the left shoes after the right shoes and everything. So they start. And also, if you're going to Paris, in the Apple shop in Paris, is a huge picture of Antoine Dupont already. So you can see that it starts after the first game will give the tempo, and Friday, it will be a huge game against New Zealand, and I hope it will be not too much pressure for the French team.
That's the thing, isn't it?
But
Yeah.
I think this is just the only problem. But I will say this new generation of French players, they won the World Cup under 20.
Yep.
They won with Toulouse or with La Rochelle, top 14 or European. So they are not scared because they beat and they have the habit to win. Than our
Grand Slam.
generation, we were French flair, so we can win one amazing game, and the week after we were terrible.
yeah.
We were so French. Than this generation, they are built, they are born to be champion.
Jouer.
And I think that's the difference, because you've had your French flair throughout the years, but you've had your consistency of your French flair in terms of how do we bring that French flair week in, week out. And the squad they've developed ever since the 2019 World Cup, it's the most consistent French team going into this World Cup. in terms
You could
of
go
results.
further back than that. So 2003, I think you got your hat-trick against them, didn't you? You scored quite a few hat-tricks that year. It was quite phenomenal. 2007, on the bad side of it, it literally pumped France on that 2-test series, about 100 points aggregate. And then 2007, you lose to them in a tight game. So you never
That's
really know. And now
exactly
New
it.
Zealand apparently are rubbish after the South Africa game.
And it's one game. Like, it makes a difference. Doesn't matter what results you've done before going into this World Cup. I think there's one stat that we said they've played each other 15 times, and only they've won one time. So it makes
Did you
that
know
one. Do you imagine one result covers it?
It's
Clears your
unreal, isn't
history.
it?
So that's what World Cup is all about. And the only thing that we always remember in World Cups, it's not mostly our wins, but it's our losses, obviously, especially with the All Blacks against the Frenchies.
Where
You
are
say-
New Zealand at the moment?
Oh, yeah.
Because-
we are in sync. That was
'Cause-
exactly my question.
We go, let's take it back a year ago, and apparently New Zealand rugby is on a decline. Since then, you've had a great compilation of results. Then Ian Foster is told that he's not going to be coach at the end of the World Cup, before the World Cup starts. You then batter everyone in the Rugby Championship, and it's like, oh my gosh, the dark horses. Do you remember New Zealand? Yeah, they're really, really good at rugby. And then we go back a couple of weeks ago at Twickenham, where you shipped 35 points against South Africa. Is it fair to say there's a bit of confusion, or are there just a few blips that we're perhaps not used to with New Zealand rugby at the moment entering into a World Cup?
Blitz and just other teams developing really well. The level's just gone up. And the challenge of being an All Black, even before those blitzes, we've always had challenges, because we know every single team is on their A game. And if every other team has gone up another level and you're not in your A game, you're going to get 30-odd points.
They were a man down against South Africa, obviously. I think I read some stat, we'll have to check this, but I think the Barrett brothers are responsible for 33% of all-time cards for the All Blacks after that against Barrett.
To be honest, this game in Twickenham, New Zealand against South Africa was very interesting, because when you are a player, but when you are a coach, sometimes you put 6 forwards on the bench and 2 backs, and you take risks. You say, well, if I have a scrum half or a backs injured quickly, it's a big risk, but you do it 6-2. And South Africa, on this game, they did 7 forwards on the bench and just 1 backs. Then it was Cobus Renac cover scrum half and winger. But after 49 minutes, South Africa, they changed 7 forwards and bring 7 forwards. And this for me was something new. We never
Did
seen.
you like it?
You like or you don't like this match, New Zealand. So it's
He liked it.
it's huge risk because international level you can after 5-10 minutes tackle and have a bad injury, but they try some things new, and he works on this day. And I will be very interesting to see also the strategy of South Africa during the World Cup if they will carry this, or they will come back to 6 forwards and 2 backs, because normally it's 5 forwards and 3 backs on the bench.
I think just for context for that, Villy Leroux was due to be on the bench and he pulled out the day of the game. So they then went from a 6-2 bench where Villy Leroux was going to be on there with Cobus Renac and just went, do you know what? We'll just go 7-1. So I don't think it was...
I imagine they'll keep to it now, though.
Yeah, I don't think it was as premeditated. I like it. I know it's been a huge discussion point, but...
When did they change that, do you reckon?
I think on the day.
Do you reckon, would conditions play a part? If it's a wet, slow, sloppy game.
Which it was, wasn't it? The rain started.
That morning. If you had conditions.
I also think they have a backline, which not every squad at the World Cup has, where it's so interchangeable. You've got Damon Willemse that can play 10, 12, 15. He can play on the wing. Got a scrum half in Cobus Renac that can play scrum half.
Yeah, winger in the centre, wasn't it? Yeah.
They've got back rows that are actually comfortable in the back line as well. And so as much as we speak about South Africa, and of course we focus on their super strengths, the set piece, they also have an interchangeability within their team, which is skill. And we don't often talk about skill with South Africa. I think there needs a lot of myth busting with South Africa. They, on average, scored just under 4 tries a game. They scored 5 against the All Blacks. That's remarkable. So whilst they do have the nuts and bolts of the game, they do possess so much more as well. Let's
just finish on the opening fixture before we move on to that group. What are they going to do with the Haka? We talked about 2007. They faced up to the Haka. It kind of worked for them that day. Wow. Yeah. I mean, Wales tried it. Didn't go very well in the past. What do you think? If you were Galtier, what would you do on Friday night?
They will respect the Haka is the first game of the World Cup. I think when it was Chabal and everything, it was completely different. The French team lost against Argentina the first game of the World Cup. They were struggling, and they bring an extra of aggressivity and some things. But I think on this game, I think the French team will just look the Haka. But I think the atmosphere in Stade de France will be amazing,
goodness.
Because
it's going to be
could
immense,
you imagine at the moment to get 1 ticket for this game, it's more expensive than to get a ticket for the final. So you can see the interest, everybody.
Have you got any contacts for us, Philippe?
Yeah, no, but it's crazy. It's crazy. The price.
You see this house?
No, but you see this house? You need to sell
That's where all the tech money is going back.
No, but
it's going to be a serious corporate here on Friday night, isn't
you
it?
can see the interest for this game. All French people want to be in the stadium Friday. Everybody want to be there. And it's just 82 dozen tickets.
That Haka, obviously, between the French and the All Blacks, it's a different respect. People kind of interpret it differently when they expect too much in their face, but it's like, okay, they're here to play, compared to in Wales when they don't want you to do the Haka and you make the Haka inside your changing room. That's a different kind. But we've seen the level of just on the field and off the field, people engage into what's going to come in the end. And I still remember, there's a photo still going around. They have it in my course here. There's me doing my facial Haka. I don't know how I got that facial coming up, but...
Give us it.
Fred Michalek is my...
just look at that camera.
I'm going to
Cameras
mate. Let them just enjoy the view at the back. I had Fred Michalek right in front of me, who's coaching with him now in racing at Bizarre, so he still brings it up. He's got this stare that just say, I'm here, I don't give a damn. And I'm just going to stand there. He's not showing, he's not talking, but he's got this little stance about him that I'm here to play. And that's awesome, you know?
It's pure theatre, isn't it? Let's talk about England. Oh, do you want to go on?
Just on the Haka, I think you're so right. It does polarise opinion in terms of what do people do as a response and what is... When you actually break it down, the Haka is a challenge. And so New Zealand are coming to France, they're coming to Paris, the home of French rugby for this tournament, who are hosting it. And New Zealand are coming with a challenge to the French team who are hosting it. You have to respond in whatever way you feel comfortable. For the All Blacks, they expect a response. It's all done under the banner of respect. I faced the Haka a few times. We didn't really have anything like pre-planned. We just stood there, faced it, and then got beaten. And that was just how it went. But you have to... It is a challenge, and there's always a response. And the game of rugby is a physical one, and the challenge which is set down is one of real determination, one of real respect, and one of tradition. So whatever is done, whether it's something, whether it's nothing, it's amazing. And by the way, sport is entertainment. And that moment itself is going to be watched by everyone around the world.
Theatre, isn't it?
People want to come to the game for the game, but they also want to come to see the Haka and to see what French rugby are going to do.
I agree with you.
Philippe's got tickets, he's sorted. So we're going to talk about England. Philippe has got a rant that he wants to get to. We'll leave that for a minute. Let's start with you then, Hughes. Steve Borthwick. Do you want some stats? 3 wins. You know these. 3 wins and 8. Including a first loss to Tier 2 nation. I almost feel a bit bad saying that about Fiji because what a wonderful rugby team they are. Is it bad for England? How bad is it?
Well, it's not ideal. There's nothing that breeds confidence, momentum like winning. 3 from 8 is obviously disappointing, and 1 from 4 in the summer series. They'd have wanted better performances. And I think people's frustration just comes about just in terms, and Philippe and I was speaking, when you look at the potential of the individuals and the team, you think, wow, that they have the potential to do something great. We've not quite seen it, but it is different when you come here. When you do descend and come to France, and for me as an England fan, you've got one of 2 options when you're a fan. Your team are winning, it makes it easy to support your team and be a fan. But at this point, what do you chuck the towel in and go, they haven't been great, I'm not going to support them? Or do you double down as a fan and go, come on, we have to get behind them? They're the points, they're the moments where I think your team needs you the most. And sometimes it might be through gritted teeth, but England against Argentina, that first game of the weekend, Argentina beat England in November at Twickenham. So this is the rematch. This is the rematch, and this is probably the focal game of the pool that will then ultimately decide who comes first, who potentially comes second. So, yeah,
and if they win that, it kind of maybe takes a little bit of pressure off Borthwick then for the forthcoming
Sport's really fickle, isn't it?
Yeah.
You look at Wales in the Six Nations, won 1 game against Italy. They then come to summer series, they beat England in Cardiff, and all of a sudden you can start looking ahead, you can start focusing on what you're going to do rather than what's just happened. And sometimes you need that one fixture to be able to change the narrative, change momentum. So England against Argentina is a massive one. I still think England will be in a World Cup quarterfinals. I truly do. So amongst all the fog that is surrounding the nation and perhaps some of the narrative which hasn't always been complimentary, my eyes are focused on where we're going to go rather than where we've been. And I still think England make it out their group and find themselves in a quarter-final. And to try not to simplify it too much, but if you're in a quarter-final, you're 3 matches away from winning the whole thing. And that's the opportunity.
Their game plan during the season or throughout the years, the kicking strategy, do you reckon that might actually change, or would that still come in handy during pressured games in a Rugby World Cup game?
What, based on Farrell as well, maybe not being the way they play with him, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a question which lots of people have asked. I think the tactic of kicking and kick pressure and territory is one which is well seen by this English rugby team, but I'm sat here at 24 degrees, and this is absolute perfect conditions to run around. Us here as 3 wingers, we want the ball in our hands, we want to run. But I also look at the best nations in the world, France, New Zealand, South Africa, Ireland. Their point of difference between them and everyone else is their ability to score tries. I've been on record for ages to say it, but I think the top try scorer at the World Cup wins the World Cup. I think it's going to take tries to get to that point to win a final.
And we've seen it in Twickenham when the Scotland team went into Twickenham. Well known for the kicking game way before, but they've switched their style of play, and you've seen the differences. Obviously, Finn Russell playing a big part of it, but like you said, it's see what happens.
I would love to see them break the shackles, play with a bit more freedom, and explore their potential. I think if we do that, then we could find ourselves in a good way. It's, you know, as a coach and a player, and you know as a player that have been at these big tournaments, one of the biggest factors in elite sport is pressure, and France have it, but how do you utilise it? Do you turn it into something which is positive? New Zealand, almost since the day that rugby was born, have always had pressure because of your achievements, the standards you set. There isn't a huge amount of pressure on England, and I hope they're able to use that to be able to breathe a bit better, to have a greater sense of freedom to be able to do what they need to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the first game against Argentina is vital for England. But what you say, it's the four best teams, like you say, Ireland, New Zealand, South Africa, and the French team. Where they are good, it's when they arrive in the strike zone, they score. You can see the French team against Australia, against Fiji, they didn't have too many balls. They were quite a lot in their half, but each time they came in the strike zone, they score. And I think this is a big difference between these four nations and all the other. And it's for me that the rugby improves so much now. Of course, you need discipline and everything, but I don't see one other country win the World Cup than these four countries. Because what's the name? You need confidence, you need creativity, but you need also to believe in your game plan. And I think it's very, very important. Now you coach a team in the racing, and you know it's difficult not to arrive and to be to win 2 games in 10 tests and say no, I will win the World Cup. It's impossible. No, you need to win 5 very, very hard games during the World Cup.
You need the momentum.
And you need, you need this, and you need the experience, and you need also the trust of the guys. And I think the big difference, you were spot on, this big difference is when you are in the strike zone. Some teams, they are all the time unlucky, but it's not unlucky. They are not as precise than the 4 other teams.
I think that's it. It's the creativity of teams. You might have the Springboks who generally drive off 5-meter runouts, but now you've got plays that come off the back, and you've got big boys running hard against number 10s and number 12s.
Joe, what you need is a really creative number 8 that maybe has played a few seasons in France in that England team, Philippe. And
this is a loaded question.
Maybe would you like? So we'll give
speak about Zach Mercer?
The floor is yours, Philippe. Off you go.
No, firstly, I am very, very sad for Zach Mercer. Why? Because he was amazing in Montpellier for 2 years. He was the best player in the top 14. He enjoys his life. He was an amazing player for us. And he moved to England. He signed to Gloucester, but to play for this country and to be involved in the World Cup. And when I see that he was out of the 44, 45, he was devastated, but I think it was terrible for him because he moved just to be involved with England. And after, it's amazing player because he have flair, he have creativity. He's difficult to read, He pass, he creates so much. And to be honest, I think it's what England needs at the moment. It's some flair, And, when you are the best player in the top 14, it's not easy, because when you have guys like Antoine Dupont, you have guys like Aldrit, you have some of the best players in the world, and top 14 is 26 games plus semi-final and final. And when you are, because he was elected by the players, it's not by newspapers or by the coach. It was the players say that Zach Mercer was the best player of the top 14, and we won the league. And to be honest, I don't understand then why he's not picked in the 33 of England because he's a fantastic player. After it's sure he don't like too much the weight. He's not a 180 kilo in the bench press because he tell me I prefer to do a pass than to carry weight. But rugby, it's a game. You need to pass, you need to touch the ball. But after, this work rate, it's amazing. And in 2 years in France, he improved a lot this defense. In the beginning, he was missing few tackles, but he improved a lot about the physicality and this defense was very good. But after, it's amazing player and he's a flair player.
You two both coaches now. What's the most important thing? The best players or the best players to fit a system?
To be honest, by experience, you win trophy with good players. You never win trophy with average players. So after you need to adapt, and you need to adapt your game plan with the players and the quality of the players. But after Zach here, he's quite atypical in the French word. I don't know the English, but he's so much skills. He can play center. He's as skillful of inside center or outside center, and he's tough because when he play in 2 years for Montpellier, he play 56 games, so he never be injured. He train each day. And, after you are coach and you have your game plan and you have players fit, but to be honest, when he was out of the 45 players, he was a squad of 45 players in middle of June, and some number 8 was injured, and he was out of this squad. For me, it's difficult.
You bring a strong argument, don't you?
It's very, very difficult to understand this. And also, because I coach him and I have very great relation with him and I was very close with him. And he said, Philippe, I have the best 2 years in my life. And also he was married. He just had a baby. He enjoys his game. And he moved to England to be part of the World Cup.
Yeah. And then nothing.
And nothing. And I think it's good. It's good for Gloucester because I hope he will play very well for Gloucester and everything. But I think England miss some player like this because you saw against Fiji at one time he was just one pass bash, and international rugby. You need to do the extra pass. You need to move the ball. You need to play where is space. And I think these guys, he brings this. After, of course, you need to give him freedom. He was with a fullback. My winger was on the first line defense. He was with a fullback. But each time a team kick, he was bringing something special. And so I am very sad for him. After, I hope that England will do well, but at the moment when I saw the game of England, you miss this flair, this creativity, and you have very good player. You have very, very skillful player in England. You have, for me, you have good player, but at the moment the confidence is quite low in the English squad.
We are looking forward to the World Cup. It starts in just a few days' time, but of course, for the teams, preparation starts months before the actual event. I caught up with England's operation manager, Charlotte Gibbons, to see how preparations are going in England camp. Charlotte, we are a couple of days away before the tournament begins, but to be fair, for you, I'd imagine this has been in preparation for a long, long time. When did you start preparations for the Rugby World Cup?
Would have started in 2020, really, so after the 2019 one, but we went straight into COVID pretty much, didn't we? But no, it's the first meeting that you have as team managers is in 2020. Recce started in 2021, so that's when we came over for the first time, picked our team base, and since then, so really it's been 2.5 years of planning, I guess, essentially. and now we're here, thank goodness.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's it like now actually being there?
It's just relief, really. So we did lots of visits in the build-up, different people, not just me, but all different members of the team coming over to check a few things. So the chef would come over. We obviously had security coming over, and then we arrived on Thursday, and it was an incredible welcome. But I'm always just, until I see the players, so I just want to see their reaction and see, how they find it. So the first 24 hours is always hectic. People are trying to figure out where to go, where things are. But rather than try and preempt everything, I just sort of sit back, let them discover it all. I'm there to answer questions, and actually they've been really pleased with what we've set up. So they love the hotel. The team space is brilliant. The training ground is, it's great. So relief is the overwhelming moment.
After 24 hours, it's relief.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
So
some job.
that's great. Very exciting.
Listen, it's England's results haven't been going to plan in the lead up to the World Cup. These are warm up games; they're preparation games. What's that like? What's the atmosphere like at the moment amongst the boys, the team, the management in the lead up to the first game?
Yeah, it's great. Since we've got here, it's been very positive. Like I say, everyone's really happy with what we've got. We know we've got the facilities that we need, so we've settled in, and now, they're able to focus on Saturday now. So they've got what they need. They've got nothing else to think about. So everything is about this weekend's game. But there's a good vibe amongst the management team, the coaches, and the players. So we're just keen to really get going now. And it's Sunday evenings, like the start of test week. So they've got a bit of free time today, and then this evening off we go.
That's usually the way. Hey, what are you like a fan, Charlotte? What are you like watching your team play?
Well, I've always watched the beginning. I'm often in the changing room through parts of it, and then I'll come out towards the end. I love watching them. I've worked with them, a lot of them, because I used to work in the pathway. So I've watched these boys grow up. So I feel incredibly proud watching them. I'm very.
That must be quite special. Who the players that you've seen come through the ranks, and now here you put them at a World Cup.
So back in 2008, I did my first under-18 tour with Joe Marler, Billy Vanapola. Billy didn't come. George Ford, Owen Farrell. They were like 16, 17, and 18. Right up until 2016. So Tom Curry would have been the last guy on an under-18 tour that I went on. So I've seen them grow from talented young kids into full-blown internationals, into dads, into husbands, and I'm just so proud of them and proud to be here along that journey with them. It's brilliant to watch, and as well as if I can do my little bit that helps them, that's fantastic. But it's great to see them on this stage.
And they must love in turn seeing you there, familiar face in what is a pressure cooker of a Rugby World Cup environment.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think over the years I've earned their trust, so that's good. So it's a good relationship we've got. Yeah, and yeah.
Argentina first up. What's the score going to be, Charlotte?
It will be a good result for England.
And they will get there on time.
They will get there on time. They will
right kit.
Right kit.
They know what they're doing.
And then it's over to them. So I will do my bit, and then I'll leave them to do their bit, which they will do very well.
We wish you the very best of luck at the weekend. Thanks for chatting to us.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Marseille. You are watching and listening to the official Rugby World Cup podcast. My name's Gethin Jones. I'm your host. This podcast is brought to you by the official beer of the World Cup, and that is Asahi Super Dry. And what a panel we've got today. 2 world-class wingers in Philippe Saint-Andre, Joe Rokocoko, and Ugo Monye. You may know him as team captain from Questioner Sports. Lovely to have you with us, guys.
He's been gagging to do
I know.
this, hasn't he?
It's going to be a challenge at the World Cup.
He is
to think
right,
I'll put you down for every intro. So we've done a bit of opening game, France, New Zealand. We've done a bit of England. Let's move on to Australia. Philippe Saint-Andre. Eddie Jones is in charge of Australia. He's got Steve Hansen involved. Has your WhatsApp been going this week? Is he getting you involved? Is he trying to employ every coach in the world to help him and help Australia win the World Cup?
I know well Eddie Jones,
I've seen him. He's been on your Instagram, your best mates.
Yeah, and he was he was coach of also Saracens when I was coaching Cell Sharks. So I did a lot of meeting with him. No, I think it's not easy. Also, when you move to England to Australia, and you arrive just few months before the World Cup. But to be honest, against France last week, they were not as bad as this, but they didn't have a kicker. I think when we speak about score in the strike zone, but also kicking game, the French team have two great kickers, or they did 95%. But halftime, it was 8 points difference between the French team and Australia. But the kicker of Australia missed 8 points, and the French team make 100%. And this make a huge difference, because when you don't have a kicker, after the team say, okay, I can do a silly mistake, or I can take a penalty at 45, 50 meters, because they will never make 3 points. And I think Australia, about the rugby, they break the French team few times. They score some good try, but you need a great kicker.
That's it, Carter Gordon, isn't it? Quite a relatively new.
You need.
half.
I think he kicked 2 on 9 or something like this, and it's impossible to win one of the 4 or 5 best nations in the world if you don't have a kicker.
It'd have changed the game at half time.
Yeah.
It'd have changed the game, because all of a sudden it's a tight game. France have all the ball, all the territory, all the opportunities go into half time. And you can imagine a team thought, okay, let's keep doing what we're doing. We'll break them eventually. But you look at the scoreboard and you're thinking, for all of the output, we haven't got the benefit. And Australia are going, we haven't really played that well, but our kicks are taking us, are keeping us within the game. And as much as we want to talk about tries, we'll see loads of tries this World Cup. Every World Cup, 2003, England had a great goal kicker, Johnny Wilkinson. 2007, South Africa won the World Cup by kicking. 2011, Dan Carter. 15, Dan Carter. 2019, despite South Africa's dominance in the scrum, Andre Pollard, 3, 6, 9. That scoreboard pressure absolutely tells. So if you don't have a 90% plus goal kicker, those tight games, and whilst you might see free-flowing rugby in the group stages, quarter semis, finals, you need those penalties, those drop goals to be able to give you a buffer.
It's like you said, scoreboard pressure plays a massive part on pressured games. World Cup, it plays the psyche part. It does 3 points as like 40 points.
2007,
Exactly.
a drop goal, and you win the tournament.
It's massive. And that's the difference.
Philippe mentioned momentum as well. I mean, Eddie's 0 from 5 going into a World Cup. We saw some of the reaction of the All Blacks when the news about Steve Hansen got announced as a proud All Black. What did you make of that? Him coming in to help the Aussies?
It's just kind of awkward, really. It's like, what happens when you meet each other in the playoffs? As that sensitivity part is like, because you've gone into a camp. And obviously, there's friendships that you've created in rugby, which is important as well. And where do you have that limit into enhance this player to be the best? And next thing, this player's been enhanced, and they come up against your team that you're going to play against, that you previously coached. But I can understand it's bigger than that for Steve. It's bigger than that. It's self-development. It's your friendships. It's a touchy subject, eh?
Could you come and help the England? No, but
what would you do?
Yeah,
To be honest, I am happy in my house. I host you. We have some beer. It's 25 degrees. We'll go to the beach after. I will go to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning with Eddie Jones and to have a headache in the end of the day.
We talked a little bit about South Africa earlier, and obviously there's Scotland first up. I tell you who we haven't spoken about too much on the pod is Ireland, bizarrely. Like, maybe Jens, you go first. Ireland, Philippe, you think they're top 4 in the world going into the tournament? They have a chance in your eyes?
But they are not top 4, they are number 1, the Irish team, So after my only doubt, it's in the history of the World Cup, they never passed the quarterfinal. And this was an MS. It's, in some things, experience and history. It's important. But after, I think they won 16 games in a row, I think. So it's quite amazing. But against Samoa last week, they were quite struggling when they changed the team. And in the beginning, I speak about depth, because you know that you will have injury. You know that you're starting 15 on the first game. If you arrive to the final, it will be 5, 6 players different. So my only question is, I don't know if the Irish team have the depth to go until the final and win the final. The Irish team are amazing and they are the best team in the world, but they have the ability to play 2 games, few weeks rest, 2 games, few weeks rest. The World Cup, it's completely a different thing. Each 5-6 days, you need to wear the jersey. And this is very, very tough. And after, they are precise, they are amazing. They are the best team in the world. They are number 1 in the world at the moment. But to be honest, I am more scared about South Africa. If I will bet, I will say South Africa, France in the final of the World Cup.
I don't doubt Ireland for a second. They've beaten every single Tier 1 nation, like you said. First time they've won a Test series down in New Zealand. And by the way, they're 1-0 down. Had to win Test 2, Test 3 to be able to do it. They're Grand Slam champions. The history of not being able to get to quarterfinals, that's a backpack that weighs slightly heavy on them. But I actually think they're over that. I don't think this team are even thinking about quarterfinal. They think about how do we win it. So I don't doubt their quality, their cohesion, the sense they have no fear playing against anyone. The only thing that I doubt about them is their route to potentially achieving a World Cup. They'll get out of their group. And if they get out their group, their World Cup quarterfinal is New Zealand or France. I mean, that is filthy. That's a matchup for a World Cup final.
What's filthy in French, Philippe?
C'est pas bon pour la santé.
Filthy is easier.
But I agree. I think the quarter-final, it will be one pretendant to be world champion will be out, and it can be New Zealand, South Africa, France, or Ireland. And I think these 2 groups will play in quarter-final, and it will be criminal. It will be very, very hard for one of these 4 countries will be out after the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
Like in what World Cup we've previously said, previous World Cups, who's going to make the finals? Then we said, he's going to make the semis and the finals. Now we're talking about who's going to come out of the pool. What?
It
World
is
Cup
one of the
has
most
come to that,
competitive
so
World
it's
Cups
gonna
ever,
be
isn't it?
competitive.
Yeah.
Can I mention a country that Ireland haven't had a huge amount of oxygen, considering they are the world number 1 coming into this World Cup starting in a few days. The other one who I think is a massive dark horse that no one's even spoke about, Argentina. Argentina with Philippe Contepomi, with Michael Cheika, with their recent history.
Fernandez Lobe also.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
A brilliant coach. Do you think they could be one of these dark horses that can really upset that top 4 which we've already tried to establish?
I'm actually rooting for them to come out of the pool, to be honest.
Yep, they will, no doubt.
Yeah, they've got a decent little draw, haven't they?
Depends the first game against England.
Yeah.
But one other team is Scotland, because I feel that the Scottish team play very well, play a great game of rugby, and maybe they have the best generation from a long time. The only problem, they are in tough group.
No, but South Africa first, will they put everything into that? Absolutely all they've got, and can they spring that surprise?
It's 2 strategy, or you put the best team, or you put the second team, and you try to be focused to win the other game. But because Scotland, I think, are 5th nation in the world, or something like this. And for me, they played 2 games against France in the warm-up game. They were amazing. They play quite a good rugby,
What would you do if you were a Scottish coach? What would you do? South Africa? You mentioned maybe
it's terrible, but me, I will pick the second team against South Africa.
No, you wouldn't.
Why? South Africa, if you pick your best team against South Africa, you will lose, probably. I will say 80% chance, but you can have 5, 6, or 7 key players injured. So it's like a gambling, but for me, I think Scotland, they have a chance to be in the quarterfinal. But the first game against South Africa, you can lose, and also you can have maybe 4 or 5 of your best players out for the rest of the competition. So it's a big risk. But me, I speak about strategy, and I speak about the best chance for Scotland.
Can you
to be in the
overcomplicate
quarterfinal.
it? Can you overcomplicate it? Because you're thinking, okay, so we play our second team just because this could potentially happen, or do you just back yourself? You're at a World Cup.
Do you back yourself? Would this World Cup come down to points difference or bonus points? I'm not bonus, but points difference, because it's going to be so close. So do you play your best team every single game because you want to get close in terms of that points difference, or do you want to play not your strong team and get flogged? And that was the difference of getting that.
But after, I know it's not in the mentality of the Scottish team.
Yeah.
And they will pick their best team against South Africa, of course, But it's not an easy game to play your first game against South Africa. And also, if South Africa put 7 forwards on the bench.
If Scotland put their first team out against South Africa and they beat South Africa, can we come back to your house next week and discuss that result?
Of course.
Thank you very much. As you know, I'm a proud Welshman, but it's fair to say, Joe, that if Fiji beat Wales on opening weekend, that's not a surprise.
In terms of history, it's not a surprise, obviously. The last time that it was around these areas, obviously.
2007, I was there. Awful.
But it's come down to that, of this, like we've just been previously speaking about, these other teams, tackling the giants and coming to World Cup. It's a shame, obviously, what's been happening in Wales in the past few years or few months, obviously on and off the field. But it's the confidence of the Fijian team that's going into this World Cup is so high at the moment, in terms of players, in terms of preparation. This is the most prepared Fijian team going into World Cup. They went back to their roots, obviously, stayed in the local villages and the islands, got to get the people and what's the reason playing for all this? What's the whole reason for it? And going into Twickenham from the village, flying to Twickenham and performing in world stage against an English team is just, and they've got a good mixture of, obviously, professionalism and within draw being involved has immensely improved the players. And they've got a good group of guys who played in Europe who are used to playing in Championship Cup pressure games, top 14s or other European competitions. So for them going against a Welsh team, I think it'll be the first time the Wales will be making sure they are switched on from the get-go and not really.
Yeah, and something's different. Of course, when you look at the back line of Fiji, it's unbelievable. But they have a kicker. Also, this makes the difference.
Quite rare being a kicker.
No,
Fiji.
but before we say it was very difficult, but they didn't have a kicker. They were struggling the last 10-15 minutes. But no, they have a good team. They have
Over
a good,
80%, I think, in Super Rugby, isn't he?
They have a good impact player, but they have a great kicker also. They show against England, the important kick, he make it. And, I think for me, the two outsider in the World Cup, it's Scotland and Fiji.
Yeah. I watched Fiji against France. I know they lost by 14 points, but it wasn't a reflection of the game. It wasn't. It was an in-step try, 5 minutes to the end, and that extended the lead. But that was so competitive. And I saw Fiji at Twickenham, and it was a brilliant result. But that wasn't Fiji playing at their maximum potential. It wasn't. I think the room for growth. And also what they've taken away from other teams is the areas where I felt as if you could manipulate Fiji. You could beat them for fitness. You can beat them in the set piece. Their line-out didn't function against England that well, but the scrum functioned really well. And they have a kicker. I think Fiji-Wales, that opener weekend, I mean,
I'm-
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm a bit worried
You should be.
about it.
The thing is, the Fiji team, the boys was well known for backs. That was about it. Well, now you've got a good balance of a full pack who can actually compete against.
Well,
other.
we
You
haven't
see
got
the
a line
scrums,
out
you see
at
the
the
set piece,
moment.
but you see when you're in the score zone, the strike zone, these forwards just making easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but it looks easy because it's a static catch, and they still graduate 2 meters, 1 meters, but they always seem
They're
to
going
go
forward.
Go forward, yeah.
So you got forwards who are going forward, and you got a lethal backbone who just wants the ball from 9 to 4 to 15, and it's exciting to watch for my side anyway.
I couldn't agree more. And they've got players that are really familiar, I think, especially us up here. You've got someone like Levani Bottier, who plays at La Rochelle, whether it's at 7 or at 12. He's one of the most devastating hybrid players on the planet, I think, in terms of what he can do on the gain line with ball in hand and how he can stop momentum in defence.
Turnovers as well.
Joshua Tuisova, he's the type of player, if he gets the ball one-on-one, and we'd have been in these positions, and you're seeing this guy who's the width of him, the trunk of him, his legs, his ability to create power and dynamic. He didn't play against England.
No.
He'll be back for that Wales game, which is ridiculous. Then you've got someone like Semi Randrandra, who's just, he creates something out of nothing. We're talking one pass plays where it's 10 to 12, and all of a sudden he's an offload and they're behind the gain line. Their ability to be able to create momentum is unreal. The matchup with Wales is going to be fascinating. I'll be so interested to see.
Can you say some nice things about Wales now, gents, please?
Wales, by the way.
But you beat England in the
Thank you.
warm-up game.
Wales-
Please continue.
And he was a good game. It was a very good game.
Wales are who Wales are, and I think people really need to respect, especially under Warren Gatland. They'll be fit, they'll be tough. They're always a tough team to beat, and I thought what we saw in the Six Nations not a true reflection of them. I think what we've seen this summer is a far greater true reflection of them. They've also got a lot of young players, and by the way, at a World Cup, you get one of two outcomes. You get young players, inexperienced players that are overawed by this and worried and find themselves rabbit in the headlights, or you see themselves thinking, oh, well, this is fun. But how good is this?
Yeah.
What an opportunity. And I think you've probably got more of the latter out of them. So I think it's going to be a brilliant, free-flowing game, which will turn into an arm wrestle at some point, because that's going to be a tight fixture. But if I had to put my money on it, anyone who thinks Fiji's not going to get out of that group, think again.
Oh, no, I
Because
think
they
you're
could,
probably right.
hey, it could be Australia, it could be Wales. I'm not sure who it is, but they are seriously competitive.
Now, you forgot the Jordans, though.
Yeah,
The Georgians,
yes,
unfortunately, are
they
not
can-
doing what they're doing.
Well, we've seen Tonga do that to the French team in 2011. So,
Yeah, they've beaten Wales
they're
as well.
competitive,
Thanks for
yeah.
mentioning that, Joe. Bringing that up. As coaches now, like one thing that Gatland is known for is getting the very best out of his players. Do you see that? Would you go along with that?
Yeah. He's a world-class coach. He showed this with the Welsh team, with the Lions and everything. But after, I am not sure he has the best generation of Welsh players. Like you say, I think they will be fit. They will be tough. They will be hard. But if you pick the Welsh team and the Fijian team, and you try to pick the best team of the two, there's so much talent in the Fijian team. The back line of Fiji. Each player, they can, from nothing, they can score a try of 80 meters. So I think the Welsh team will need to be well structured, well organized. They will need to have a great set piece. They will need to have their kicker to the best, because I think, and it's the beauty of the World Cup. I think it will be an amazing game.
being in the line setup, what's Gatland actually brought the best? How does he bring the best out of players? And these kind of
He once told the guys at Wasps that he brought water in that has extra oxygen in it, and they believed him, and they kept running off and getting it. What?
No one believes that. No, I mean,
Joe Worsley believes that.
that's Joe Worsley.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm not surprised. I think there's so much spoken about coaching, and you guys are coaches, so you'll know it. You live and breathe it every single day. But I think when you're talking about modern day athletes and modern day rugby, the one thing you have to have is a connection. You spoke about the connection you have with Zach. hence which would have enhanced his experience in Montpellier beyond just playing in a wonderful team. Gats truly cares for his players. With the Lions and the Lions setup, you have a short amount of time to be able to bring together and aggregate the thinking of 4 home unions and get them to think one way in literally 3 weeks to take on the best teams on the planet. He does that. And the only way you do that is by creating a culture and a purpose. You spoke about the purpose of the Fijian team. He does that. But also, what you do need to have is you need to be able to display to the guys when you stand in front of them that they have to believe what you're saying. And he's got evidence. He's the greatest coach that Wales has ever had. He's one of the greatest coaches that we've ever had in the home nations, whether that's domestically, internationally. He produces results. So when he speaks, you absolutely listen. So I think that's what Gats does. And he's been in these situations time and time again, and have an experienced leader who's been in these situations and been able to navigate his way through. Let's not forget, he was in a World Cup semi-final against South Africa and only lost by 3 points to the team that went on to blast England in a World Cup final. He's never been too far away. We go to 2011, 1 red card to Sam Warburton. They still should have gone on to win the game. So
Against France.
Yeah, against France. So when you look at his World Cups and whether he's had golden generations, whether he's had controversy on and off the pitch or whatever it might be, he does seem to be able to get the very best out of it. But to pick up on one thing you just said, I think it's a great exercise to anyone listening to this podcast or watching it. When we look at this Wales-Fiji game or any of the matchups in the opening weekend, I'd love people to put together their combined teams. Look at the Wales team, look at the Fiji team, pick your combined team. How many Fijians, how many Welsh, how many English, how many Argentinians, how many New Zealand, how many French?
We're not talking fancy team here, we're talking about a little World Cup 15.
Yes, your combined team of that opening weekend. It'll be really interesting to see the division of labour between the two squads.
And he lost a lot of important players and experienced players in the Welsh squad, and this is difficult to change. And also for a great team, you need great leader, and you need leader with experience. And the Welsh team have less experience than they had before.
Let's not focus on that. Let's say Wales and Fiji to leave the group. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. You're talking about World 15s here. Hugo, it's time for us to do our Kanpai 15 in partnership with Asahi Super Dry, which is the World Cup's official beer. So this is, we're going to ask the gents your favourite opponent, maybe someone you found really difficult to play against, but then you enjoyed a beer with them after, and you said Kanpai, which is the Japanese for cheers. It actually means empty cup, but that comes from when you get an Asahi because you want to finish it. So yeah, it could be someone you've played with, someone you wanted to play with, someone you have shared a beer with or would like to share a beer with. Philippe, who would that be for you?
For me, it was James Small. We had few fights on the pitch, but all the time after the game, we have a lot of beer, and he was a great guy. He's not anymore here, but he was a fantastic player. He won the World Cup in 1995, and he was a tough guy on the pitch, but he was a fantastic guy to finish the night. So James Small.
I think he's a brilliant first addition to Kanpai 15. What a player he was. Joe?
Oh, I guess the best winger off the field will be Drew Mitchell. He's a guy that you can even take him seriously on and off the field. We've created a good relationship, obviously playing against each other, bit of chit chat now and then, and played with each other in the bar bars as well. So in terms of off the field, it'll be Drew Mitchell. On the field,
bar bars with Drew Mitchell for a week.
On the field, it's a real tough one. Obviously, I'll go from a Welshman. I'll go for Shane Williams, great old Shane Williams.
Have a good night with him.
Just a guy that all the wings I've played against I really respect, but he's just a guy, like you said, small in structure, but he done such amazing things that I still think he's underrated. I think he's one of our top on top of what he is now. But people think of him, he's He's always a guy I find real hard to judge and defend because he's so nippy. Similar to what Kobe is now, so I'm quite glad I finished when Kobe is playing. But he's such a great gentleman off the field as well. So, those two for me. Sorry, I know it's meant to be one, but I'll change.
That's right. Joe Rokocoko, you can break the rules. Do you know, whilst we're sat here in the beautiful sunshine of Marseille, right now, Shane Williams has just started the 10B Ironman. It's about 8 degrees. He's just got in the water and he's swimming for an hour and a half. That's what he does now. He loves his Ironman.
Swims and runs
incredibly
miles,
fit man, yeah. Well, thinking of you, Shane. All right, go on then, Hughes.
See, I watched a lot of Joe when I was growing up.
Oh, nice.
And
I'm old, man. Like a white beard.
So, yeah, when I was 5, I was watching Joe.
I used to watch Philippe.
Philippe will be the radio then.
Yeah. But I was lucky enough to play with Joe in 2015 on barbars, and that was some week.
You do a lot of barbars, Joe.
No,
You can't turn it down.
yeah, well, it's great times. It's all about that good time with the boys.
100%. It brings you back to the very reason why you started.
Play rugby, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that was cool. I think touring's the best part of rugby because it's you and your team travelling around the world. They're the people you rely upon, socialise with, and I had some of my best times and experiences in a country I absolutely love, South Africa. So I'd say playing against Brian Habana, like a world-class player, Test Centurion, and just a really good bloke. So going to South Africa, coming up against some of the greatest rugby teams that they've ever produced, and then being able to share a beer. He's an absolute gent and an incredible competitor.
You two are not quite getting the rules here. You need one then. Go on, decide one in the 15. Is it Drew Mitchell or Shane Williams? To have a beer with.
It depends what kind of night you want.
This is the most you've thought
mate.
about any question I've asked you in the last hour.
I'll be
on the
happy
podcast.
because Shane won't have a beer because obviously he's got to swim from Wales to.
He wouldn't buy you one either
France.
because he's well tight.
Oh mate, I'll go for Drew. Drew Mitchell.
Fuck, Richard's sweating over that. Go
Yeah.
on.
I'll go Brian.
Okay, you
Brian
can't
in
Brian.
South Africa.
Quick fire before you leave, gents. Philippe Saint-André, who's going to win the World Cup?
France.
Joe Rokocoko, who's going to win the World Cup?
I'll go ABs.
Ugo Monye, who's going to win the World Cup?
South Africa.
And finally, is there going to be an upset? Although this is difficult now because what is an upset?
Ooh.
Will there be an upset in the opening round of the Rugby World Cup?
Yes, I'm sure. Be careful with Fiji.
Depends what team is an upset.
That's the point now, right? Wales beat Fiji, it's an upset. I'm so confused.
And the scary thing is, it's not just the first game.
Okay,
That's
well,
other
Scotland
games.
beat South Africa.
No.
England, Argentina.
Argentina.
Would that be an upset?
That's
the example of it.
I
But
think.
do you know what? There's never been a greater conversation about this Rugby World Cup. Because I think, especially when you look at round one, you've got Friday night Paris, France against New Zealand, could be a World Cup final. England, Argentina, could easily be a knockout game. You've obviously got loads of other matches as well. You've got Wales against Fiji. You've got Scotland against South Africa. It's wild. People are trying to work out how the favourites are going to get on, who's in that kind of second tier that could progress, and then who might be able to upset the cart. We speak about Fiji, that's a tier 2 nation. They're 7th in the world rankings, one higher than England, who are 8th, who are a tier 1 nation.
Exactly.
Like the rugby world is so condensed, and the airspace between top and 10 is so tight. And then you put that under a spotlight and a pressure cooker of a Rugby World Cup, and we're gonna get upsets. We should see unpredictability. That is the essence of sport.
You've been watching the Rugby World Cup podcast, the official podcast with Asahi Super Dry. And at the end of the hour, we've got nowhere with our predictions, it's fair to say, because it's such a wide open World Cup, isn't it? Thank you, Philippe. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Ugo. Thanks
you.
for having us in your home. It's been lovely. Do you do a good flat white? We've been looking for a good coffee, haven't we? Or maybe it's a beer.
We'll stick to the Asahis.
Yeah, we'll get the Asahi. Sounds good to me. Leave a comment below and we will see you after the first round of the World Cup. Enjoy, and we'll speak to you and see you very soon.